What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by only one Titan this week. The other Titan is in the West Coast, exercising his PTO, having fun, living life, vacation days always for Dame. But I am joined by the more important Titan, the better Titan, Jurg, my brother. How are we this week?
I don't know about more important. Dame, if you listen to this, I like to think you will. But if you listen to this, know that love you and miss you. The show is not complete without you because the show is we're always better together. Is my mindset. But I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. It was a rough, hectic week. I actually came back off of a break from work myself. I still recorded last week's episode, but I came back from work this week. It was tough. First week back from my nice 5-day stretch off, but we got back into the swing of things, and now here we are, another episode, and I'm happy to be here, Chris. It's the show. I don't know why the show becomes more enjoyable to me to record as we keep going, brother. I just love recording with y'all.
Damn, bro, that's way too much praise, man. Wild praise I don't know. I can't handle that much praise. But look, it's gonna be a guaranteed banger of an episode because Damien isn't here. That's coming straight from me. So, Damien, I don't know. Take some time off. That'd be great.
Well, he takes plenty.
Yeah, it's true. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But
like if you ask him to, he will gladly, Chris. You don't understand.
That's true. All right, let's go through the rundown this week. So, we're gonna briefly mention the World Series matchup, which is the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Houston Astros, an absolutely abysmal matchup for all New Yorkers out there. We're just gonna, give our brief thoughts about it, what we think about the matchup, who we think might win, keys to the game. Mostly Jurg because he's more of the baseball connoisseur than I am. And then we're gonna, talk about the NFL trade deadline because I believe the deadline is in actually like 3 more days. Jurg,
yeah,
4?
it's after. I think it's like It's a Tuesday. I want to say.
Okay, so a couple of moves have occurred, so we're going to talk about those moves, and then we're going to talk about possible moves that could transpire in the next 4 days. And then we're going to, I guess, talk about the NBA season so far. I think we're about a week and a half in. So, we're going to give some takes on how certain teams are doing, how we think certain teams will do going forward. Schedules get more rough going forward, and then some schedules get more light. And, the whole shebang. We're going to talk about all of it. So, let's start off with MLB. Jurg, Philadelphia Phillies versus the Houston Astros. It seems like, bro, every time in the MLB playoffs, there's always that underdog team that kind of goes far.
Yeah.
It's the Philadelphia Phillies this season. And look, I think they're the underdog here. The Astros are the favorite, I'm assuming. I don't know what the betting odds are, but I got to say, man, I think the Astros handled, business when I think they swept the Yankees, right? Or was it?
Yeah, they're undefeated in the playoffs. They're 7-0.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice that. Okay, so they're 7-0. See, I can't even use the momentum thing because they're 7-0. But I do think the momentum is with the Phillies. I think momentum hits more with like the underdog team that no one expects because they kind of like have nothing to lose here. Bryce Harper is on one. I think that the story of Bryce Harper, going to the Phillies and then the Nationals winning the title after he leaves, so he has that chip on his shoulder storyline is pretty cool to follow.
Which is so unfair to him, by the way. It's so stupid that people try to make that a narrative.
I mean, and yeah, you could talk about that if you want, but Bryce Harper, obviously a household name. He was quote unquote the chosen one ever since coming into the league. But yeah, man, I mean, I think there's a bunch of cool storylines going into this. Like obviously the Astros, they're like on the redemption tour. Obviously since that cheating scandal, there was always that maybe hopefulness from a lot of people thinking they would fall off. But you got to give them credit because after something like that, it's likely that a team that goes through that type of situation, they collapse. All the makings are there for them to kind of collapse. For a team who goes through some crazy scandal like that to just fall apart. But the Astros have maintained, stability, and they've actually have had success ever since then. Like they're a Class A organization, man. They're the odds-on favorite to win the championship. The Phillies, underdog team, Bryce Harper. It's hard for me as a New York Mets fan, as a New Yorker in general, to kind of root for either team. I don't know because I think the Astros are scumbags because they cheated, but they're a great organization. But then again, you have the Phillies, who, as a Mets fan, I think I should hate more. It's kind of like who I hate less at this point. But I don't know. I feel like, am I wrong to kind of root for the Phillies here? Because like I don't know, I like the underdog. Bryce Harper's a good story.
Yeah.
It would be cool if he wins the ring, and it's just like Astros. They don't need another championship, right? I mean, and the Philly crowds are insane
Yeah.
for as trash as like they are as people. They have a really good crowd, man, and like that Bryce Harper home run is like a good, you know, representation of what this means for Philadelphia. So I think I'm going to be rooting for the Phillies. Now, Jurg, you could also tell me who you're rooting for, but thoughts on this series? What you think's going to happen? How do you think the series will go? And for whoever you think isn't going to win, what can they possibly do to give themselves a chance in this?
So many things to unpack. So who I want to win is tough because I like seeing excellence rewarded in sports. I've personally learned over time to let certain things go and just accept what's happening and also just appreciate it. Like I haven't had the hate for Tom Brady like most New York raised people have had, in part because I'm neither a Giants nor a Jets fan. But also just like he is literally the greatest winner in NFL history. Like 7 Super Bowls, it can't be topped. LeBron, Steph, like those, and especially Steph. Like at the beginning, it was harder, but we're appreciating Steph more now in the latter stages of his career, which is weird to say because he's 34. So in this case, I can make the case for either or because with Houston, it would be their second World Series in 6 years. It's their fourth appearance in 6 years. I think the scandal broke during their series against the Nationals a couple years back. And so to a lot of people, it was tainted, but they've made now back to back World Series ever since. So this is just an organization, like you said, Chris, like they've ran the AL the last 6 years, essentially. The World Series goes through Houston. Because actually, think about this, Chris. I think most people don't realize it. So they won the World Series in 2017, I think. In 2018, Boston won it, but Boston had to beat the Astros to make it to the World Series. At least in I think they beat them in the ALCS, I want to say. So Boston had to beat the Astros. 2019, the Nationals beat the Astros to win the World Series. 2020, the Rays had to beat the Astros in the ALCS to make it to the World Series. 2021, the Braves had to beat the Astros to win the World Series. So the road to the World Series in the AL has ran through Houston. And this has been the premier organization in terms of regular season and postseason success in the last 6 years in Major League Baseball. You've had Boston, who had their one random run. You have the Yankees, who get 100 plus wins consistently. You have the Dodgers, who get 100 plus wins. And yes, they won a World Series and they made 2 World Series in the same amount of time. Actually, no, 3 World Series in the same amount of time as well, excuse me. But no franchise has done it with that level of consistency. So I like seeing it rewarded. At the same time, though, the excellence of the Phillies cannot be understated. Like, and I know to some people, and like Dame wasn't a fan of the wild card being expanded in both the NFL and the MLB because it could maybe lead to stuff like this that they wouldn't have made the playoffs in the regular format. But I don't mind it because sometimes, let's be real here, the Phillies to the end of the season were a mediocre baseball team. They had a rough final month of the year and they just barely squeezed into the postseason. But and I heard this earlier today actually. Sometimes like the beauty of the Major League Baseball postseason and even like the NFL and sometimes the NBA and the NHL is like if like a mediocre team mediocrity can catch fire and if they are excellent for just a few weeks they can win it all. And that's what we're seeing with the Phillies. Um, the hitting of this team all around has been great. Gene Segura has been good. JT Realmuto as one of the best power hitting catchers in all of baseball. Alec Boehm, Rhys Hoskins, who was struggling in the postseason before his massive hit in the series against the Braves. Like it's been incredible, and you just cap it all together with Bryce Harper. Like you said, Chris, he was baseball's chosen one. This has been a guy who was hyped since his high school days when allegedly he hit like a 500 plus foot home run or whatever the distance was when he was in high school. I remember that story even now. Like this is a guy who's had all the expectations in the world placed on him, and some people consider it a failure despite the fact he's a 2-time MVP. Yes, you heard me right, people, 2-time MVP. And now he's had this signature postseason. He's literally been the best player in the postseason, at least the best hitter in the postseason. Um, and if I had to give an edge to who I would love to see win from a story perspective and who I'll root for, it's the Phillies because the chosen one getting his championship is something that we all like to see in sports. Whether it be like LeBron in the NBA the last decade, in the NFL, I don't know who you. I guess Mahomes technically would be. He's the new one, so him getting it. In the NHL recently, like when Sidney Crosby won his first one, but then won the back to back, it was the making of like him being the chosen one as the successor, as the face of the league. And now people are hoping Connor McDavid will get his because he's the new chosen one, new best player, new face of the league. People hope like that's a very common trope in sports and storylines, and this is could be the next chapter written where it is the guy who we've been hyped. Chris, we've been hyping him since he was like 15, 16 years old. Isn't that crazy? This He was a teenager. This kid was a teenager when the expectation was placed on him that at one point he has to be the best player in Major League Baseball. And that's not something that's not easy to overcome and to live up to. But he's lived up to it. If people don't think they have, I'm sorry. You need to get over yourself. You need to reevaluate your decisions in life and how you view things. Because Bryce Harper has more than delivered on his career. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, and a World Series here, especially a World Series MVP, will just be the perfect cap on it
against the Astros.
against the Astros too, which you cannot say like I don't think this happens too much in baseball, but you can't nitpick it because this has literally been the best team in the other league for the last 6 years. Everyone goes through them. So from a story perspective, I would say I would like the Phillies to win. Now, who's probably going to win? I actually do hope I'm wrong, and it's not because I hate Houston. I would love to see a team win multiple championships in the sport. Because I wanted the Dodgers to do it. I was cool if the Braves had done it. I really wouldn't have cared. And now Houston, it's like, oh, okay, I got to cheer for you, I guess, because the Cubs and Red Sox ain't doing that thing anytime soon. But the Houston has just been great. Like Jordan Alvarez is outstanding. Jose Altuve, the former MVP himself. Alec Bregman. Pena, the kid who people forget, he replaced Carlos Correa. It looks like they're not missing him, right, Chris? Like the hitters have been incredible, but it's the pitching core. And you talk about stories, Chris. Justin Verlander looked like he turned back the clock a decade. This has been think about this, Chris, because you mentioned the story with the Astros. Think about this is the team that lost George Springer. This is a team that has lost Garrett Cole. This is a team that has lost
Jeez.
Carlos Correa. Those are three like pieces that were a legit part of this team in terms of making multiple World Series. And with Springer, I think he was the World Series MVP when they won it. So most other teams can't come back by losing those three pieces. A World Series MVP, a Cy Young caliber pitcher. How he didn't win the Cy Young in Houston, I don't know, but irregardless, Cy Young caliber pitcher, and Correa I think was actually ALCS MVP when they made the World Series either last year or against the year they faced the Nationals. I forget which one, but this is literally the premier team in this league. Justin Verlander has turned back the clock because remember, Chris, during the pandemic season, I think he had to get it may have been Tommy John or something else, and people thought it was going to be the end of his career. And he's bounced back. He should win the AL Cy Young this year, which I think would be the third or fourth time that he's won it in his career. You have that. If he wins this would be his second World Series because I'm almost certain he was on that first Astros World Series team. Like for Justin Verlander, this would be the final piece. Like he's already a Hall of Famer. We know this, but this would just be adding more notches to him being the greatest pitcher of all time potentially, which he deserves to be in that conversation. Honestly, it's just amazing. Like there's just excellence on both sides. It's hard for me to pick it to really root against someone in the series because I have one guy who solidifies his Hall of Fame case with the underdog team, and I have another guy that solidifies his all-time case on the favorite team. And a second ring for Altuve, a second ring for Bregman. At least I think he was on that first World Series team. A ring for Jordan Alvarez. This young pitching core that the Astros have developed, like that are just hard hitters, bro. Like they all, it feels like every single starter they have throws like 98 minimum, and that these guys can clock triple digits anytime. So at the end of the day, I just hope for a good World Series, and whoever wins, like, may the best team win. I know it sounds cliche, but dude, like, I need people to understand, like, there is there's all-time excellence on both sides, and I think we need to appreciate that more in baseball because, bro, Bryce Harper is like what 31 now, I think. Like
I'll check.
he's like 29, 30. Like he's going to enter a downturn. Justin Verlander, like he looked great, but when will he retire? Like those are two guys on opposite ends. Like it's just I'm just saying nothing lasts forever, and I'm going to appreciate this postseason. I'm going to appreciate this World Series because this is a special World Series that I think there are Hall of Fame level implications for multiple guys on both sides, and I think that's what that to me is what matters a lot. So there's that's my case on it. But yeah, I'm going to root for the Phillies by a slight edge, but I think the Astros are probably going to win it because they're a machine. They're undefeated in the postseason for a reason, and they've done it convincingly. They beat the Mariners in a couple close games, yes, but they ended up like they got the victories, and they just destroyed the Yankees. And I'm not talking about like game wise. I'm talking about mentally. Like if you're going to chant "We want Houston," you better back it up. And they didn't. And I'm not saying the players didn't know it was the fans, but the Yankees, they clearly didn't want Houston because Houston owns that franchise at this point. It's not even close.
Oof, got a little spicy there, Jurg, towards the end. I
Well,
like it.
it's because the last 4 times I think they faced in the postseason, the Astros have beaten them every time.
Yeah, I saw that stat.
Like
Um,
it's wild.
I feel like Dame could speak more about what the Yankees should do. But look, they got their own problems to deal with because Aaron Judge is a free agent this offseason.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Stevie, you know what to do.
I've heard some people say this and that he won't get it. Bro, I do not care. Aaron Judge better be the first $500 million player. The season he just had, if he doesn't get it, I'm calling for an investigation on collusion.
Huh?
There is no way this dude should not get the highest paid contract with the season he just had. Like,
Well, I was reading, I don't remember where it was, but I think the biggest threat to sign him was the Dod. I mean, the Dodgers are always in that mix, but I also think the San Francisco Giants are
yeah,
also in that mix.
yeah.
I think he's, I don't know, whatever. But
Which
look,
is weird with the Giants. Like that's weird.
yeah, I think half of that 500 million would be deducted by taxes. Actually, when you think about it. But look, yeah, I mean, I just hope we get a good series. I hope we get a good series. I think the Phillies can make it interesting, though. I definitely do. But all right, you want to move on, Jerk? You want to move on to the NFL world?
Yes, sir.
Okay, NFL world trade deadline is approaching in a few days. By the time this gets released, we're definitely gonna miss, a lot of movement. But there has been some movement up to today, and we're on Friday right now, October 28th. A few moves have happened. Well, we kind of like had a list of moves, so we're gonna talk about some trades that have occurred. And Jurg, if you want to talk about some other ones, we could definitely do that too afterwards. But I think we should start off with the Eagles, who traded for Robert Quinn.
Yes, sir.
Uh, so yeah, the Eagles trade for Robert Quinn. They acquire him from the Chicago Bears, and in exchange for a fourth-round draft pick, Jurg, it seems like the Eagles are going all in. Their defense just got a lot stronger. What do you make of them trading for him, and what do you make of like a fourth-round pick? Because it's like I don't know what the Bears are doing. Because like the makings are all there for you to rebuild, man, to tear it all down. But like they're 3-3 now.
Yeah.
Like it's that, and that's not a good enough record to fully rebuild, right? And oh man, I feel so bad for Justin Fields. But anyway, that's getting off topic. But
Yeah.
what do you make of this trade for the Eagles? And also, what do you think about the fourth round pick that the Bears got? Do you think it could have been a third round pick? Do you think it's just right? What do you think?
Well, I'll start with the Eagles. I think this is an amazing move. They're already deep in the pass rushing side of things. You think of Fletcher Cox, Brendan Graham, Jordan Davis, and now you add a guy in Robert Quinn. He's going to continue. Hassan Reddick also, by the way, on the Eagles. He's just going to add to that lethal pass rush rotation that just added another guy. And I think the big W about this is the fact that Robert Quinn, this wasn't as good of a year for him this year, like nowhere near as last year. He only has 1 sack this season, but he had like 18 last year. And he's going to be a more rotational guy now, but I think that's absolutely perfect for him because he'll be able to be fresher. He could still cause havoc. Like when the Eagles, people forget when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they won it off their pass rush with two similar pieces in Graham and Fletcher Cox, but you had a young guy there in Barnett who was the one that forced the fumble on Brady at the end of that game. So like the Eagles know that to win the, I almost said World Series because of all the baseball talk, but to win the Lombardi Trophy, you need to have a fearsome pass rush, and that's what they're developing there. Along with that secondary with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bradbury and Darius Big Play Slay. Whew, the Eagles are putting something together there. In terms of the compensation for the Bears, I think a fourth round pick for a guy who's having a down year compared to last year's fair. Also, it wasn't the easiest contract to move and play around with the money. Like, because Robert Quinn, he signed like a 5-year deal with the Bears a couple years ago, and like it just wasn't the easiest contract. That's why I think it was a fourth. Maybe if you could have tried to make a condition and try to get it to a third, like if the Eagles had like made the NFC Championship game or qualified for the Super Bowl, like made the Super Bowl, maybe bump it up to a third. But those it's really weird. And this is why I give like the NHL credit, because they would add those types of contingencies for players, like in some picks and deals where it's like if this team like let's say Dallas, like this is just an example. Let's say like the Dallas Stars trade like a future first, and the condition is if Dallas like if the team makes the conference finals, like if Dallas would make the conference finals, the pick would stay that year. If they didn't, it would like I'm explaining it horribly, but have a more results based pick. And I wish maybe the Bears could have negotiated that. But I think like, and here's the thing: remember, Chris Ryan Poles is still a new GM. This is his first year as a GM, and it I had some hope at first, but I've lost that hope. I've really lost that hope with the way they've completely failed Justin Fields. They did not attack offensive line in free agency or the draft. Matt Eberflus, to me, I think if it wasn't for Nathaniel Hackett, I think we would be arguing he's one of the worst head coaching hires from the offseason. He's no better than Matt Nagy. I can't believe I'm saying that about you as a head coach, but it's true. He's no better than Matt Nagy, and Justin Fields is just being done wrong. And it's not fair to him because they're probably going to draft a quarterback in this next draft.
Really? You
And
think so?
dude, this organization, I don't have faith in the Chicago Bears anymore. I don't. I mean, I never had faith in them. Let me actually clarify that. I never did, but I don't trust this. Like, this is the perfect example, Chris, of the GM and the coach are going to say that this was not their guy. They gave it a year. They gave it a quote unquote honest effort. Yeah, that's a pile of bullshit. And now they're going to move on and they want their own guy in there, which I think is stupid. And I think, again, it's unfair to Justin Fields. But sadly, the NFL has proven to be unfair to young quarterbacks before. So, Justin Fields, my heart weeps for you because you deserve better.
Well, Jurg, some details about the trade actually when we talk about conditions. From Ian Rappaport, when the Eagles traded for Robert Quinn, it was the culmination of a long negotiation for a top defensive end. As GM, Howie Roseman was his usual deal-making self. Along with the deal, the sides mutually agreed that Quinn be a free agent after 2022, cutting off his final 2 contract years. So I guess that's why it's a fourth-round pick.
Yeah, because there needs to be a little bit of money dealt with there
Yeah,
because he was on the long term deal. So that's why it was a fourth. So
yeah, yeah.
it's smart by the Eagles. Like this was overall it was a win for Philly, and I'm not going to say it's a loss for the Bears, but it's not a needle mover.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How confident are you in saying that the Eagles are the top contender in the NFC?
I mean, right now,
Is
who
there a gap between them and everyone else, or do you think?
I would like to see the second Cowboys game with Dak is going to be healthier by then. I just want to see it, and I want to see at least one game between them and the Giants to really give a full analysis.
Yeah.
But to the rest of the NFC, aside from those two teams in their division, oh, absolutely. Like the Buccaneers are a
Oh, they're
travesty.
falling apart right now.
The Buccaneers are falling apart to the same level of Tom Brady's marriage. Um,
Damn,
A-
nice.
Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are just I don't know what to say about them anymore.
The only team I could think of, Jurg, that I think could actually like do some decent damage is the 49ers.
Yeah, and it's sad that we can't say that about the defending Super Bowl champion Rams,
Yeah,
but
Rams are cooked.
it's the 49ers, yeah, and it's the way they play, it's the style they play. I mean, they made a trade that I think
Oh
we
yeah,
made
we
a
didn't cover that.
I mean, we had so much to talk about last week, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, but we'll talk about that actually since we're on the topic of trades. Well, let's segue into it. I don't have the details of the package with me right now, but I think the Panthers got a decent amount of compensation for it. I mean, Jerg, if you want to look it up, that's cool. If you don't,
I got
that's
you.
fine.
I
Just
got you.
to yeah, give you some break time here. But Christian McCaffrey gets traded from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers.
I got the
What?
trade.
All right, talk to me.
So he was traded for a second, third, and fourth round pick in the 2023 draft and a fifth round pick in the 2024 draft.
Yeah, so I think that's for his contract. And look, the Panthers are in rebuild mode. I think they got a haul. I think the criticism here for the 49ers is that there's such a running back system. Like, you didn't need to necessarily trade for like someone like Christian McCaffrey because they just breed running backs, right? And they're gonna get Elijah Mitchell back eventually. I was like, when I saw this move, I'm like, okay, they're pulling the Rams, right? They're going all in. I don't even know how many picks the 49ers have left, but I think some of these picks aren't necessarily theirs, which is why I think it was a little bit easier, maybe. But look, McCaffrey, I mean, look, they lost to the Chiefs. I don't want to fault them entirely because McCaffrey was there for like a total of 2 days. So, I mean, now he'll officially have a full week now that he's learned the playbook. I think this strengthens them a lot. I think this is going to take a lot of attention off Debo. And again, look, it's Jimmy G, right? Now he officially has weapons to a point where he doesn't necessarily have to throw the ball as much. Uh, this makes him more dangerous. I think for McCaffrey, I mean, you get out of Carolina, so that's a W, and you go to the San Francisco 49ers, who don't necessarily have the best record. They're 3-4. They might go 3-5. I mean, look, I'll give the Rams a chance, but still, you're still in contention here. It's a better situation. So for McCaffrey, I think it's a W. I think for the Panthers, it's a W because they get picks. They're in the middle of a rebuild. For the 49ers, it wasn't the most necessary move, but I get why they did it. So yeah, Jurg, basically, what'd you make of the trade for both parties? What'd you make of the package? And is this a needle mover for the 49ers? And also, I want you to take into account, give it some time for him to kind of get acclimated a bit. So yeah, what'd you make of this?
Well, I'm very pro running backs. Jurg loves running backs over here, and I was a fan of the move. I mean, I called it on the show, so I got to be a fan of the
That
move
is
too.
true. That is true. We called it here.
It's the number one insider who has absolutely zero sources, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy. But the deal itself, here's why I think for San Fran it makes sense. Because remember, the succession plan is for Trey Lance to eventually take control, and he'll be on a rookie deal for 2 more years and then a 5th-year option. Christian McCaffrey has 3 more years left on his contract after this season. And actually, there's an out on the deal after this year where there's no dead cap hit. So really, I think what the San Francisco 49ers are going to do, I'm assuming, is try to rework this deal a little bit with Christian McCaffrey. It wouldn't surprise me if that is a conversation to be had in the offseason in and of itself. But just for strictly on the field, listen, and I mentioned this earlier in the season, the San Francisco 49ers offensive line is not as strong as it was in years past. Alex Mack retiring, the interior was changed up a little bit. And remember, the interior is a big portion as to why running games, especially the Shanahan running scheme, is strong. I think, yes, you could argue that the running game is still great in San Fran, but I think they needed a little bit more talent there. And I think Christian McCaffrey is going to help that in terms of he can thrive in that system, but now he has the talent to even maybe take it an extra step potentially. And like you said, Chris, his first game was like literally he got off the plane and 48 hours later he was playing against the literal best team in the AFC, like in the Kansas City Chiefs. So come on now. Give it a little bit of break. You got to give it a couple weeks. I think this is where fans really don't understand how long it takes these guys to understand the system. It's going to take McCaffrey probably the next couple weeks for most of the season to get used to the system, to get used to the blocking scheme, and to get used to the fact that there's actual talent around him for the first time. He's like, oh, my offensive line can block. This is amazing. Oh, my head coach isn't an idiot. Oh, this is the best thing in the world. And I have a quarterback. Christian McCaffrey hasn't had that in Carolina.
I mean, kind of has a quarterback.
I mean, Jimmy G is better than Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield combined.
Yeah. Not the highest bar, but yeah.
I mean, still, like, he's better than anything that runs CMC.
I guess competent, to put it lightly.
I mean, they win with Jimmy G. Like,
it's true.
Their record is about or
deny that.
above. Like, I don't understand it, but like this is a play for this season to try to help them. But this is again long term because remember, Trey Lance, Trey Lance looked like he needed more help. Well, look, Trey Lance, you got Christian McCaffrey. You got no excuses next year, Chief. It's actually funny you mentioned Deebo Samuel because I think I saw something. Deebo Samuel's going to miss this game against the Rams, Chris. So
he is.
Let's see if Christian McCaffrey can make a big impact in a big NFC West game. The team that they have dominated in the regular season, they've won 7 regular season games in a row over them or something like that. Let's see what can happen. Maybe this could help turn that season around, especially offensively. Just give them a little bit more of a punch and make the running game even more respectable. Like, big time. And also remember, Chris, like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, little pressure right now. Little pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to do something with this team. Like I think the comparison, if you want to look to a similar, like a duo of coach and GM that's had some success, but the clock is ticking. Look at the Colts in the AFC, man. Chris Ballard and Frank Reich have been a good duo for a while, but they just haven't made it to the next level. They missed the playoffs last year. They might miss it this year, and they could get fired. Like the expectation is eventually you got to do something, and to like you said, like the Eagles are trying to go all in. San Fran is trying to go all in on this season, so why not?
Yeah, it seems like those two are kind of on a collision course. And maybe we're giving the 49ers a little bit too much credit, but we're just taking into account just prior experiences with the 49ers because like I don't know, I have like this trust in them for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, it seems like they made needle moving moves. So so far they have my confidence. I think this game against the Rams, and granted the Rams aren't the greatest right now, it's going to tell a lot for them.
It's because the 49ers, like to your trust, Chris, this is a team that has made it to the Super Bowl when they were the top seed in the NFC, and then nearly made it back last year when they were a wild card team. Like they beat Dallas in Dallas, and then they beat Green Bay in Green Bay. Like this is a team that is battle tested. When its best and most experienced players are out there, you have guys that are battle tested that they're not going to blink. Like they're not going to blink in
Yeah,
certain situations.
I
So
think
yeah.
anything less. I don't want to say Super Bowl because I do think the Eagles are good, but I think anything less of an
NFC
NFC
Championship game.
Championship game, yes, is a failure for them.
Yep.
Because then I think if you're there, maybe the experience factor, and the coaching, uh, puts you above the Eagles because like you know what to do in that scenario. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to take it too far. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a W for both teams. I think it's a W for both teams. Jurg, it breaks my heart because Brees Hall, I think, was making the case for offensive rookie of the year. He gets hurt, and my God, it broke my heart because like, bro, when it happened, he kind of walked a bit, and then the car came out, and it didn't seem like he hurt his knee. It
Mm-hmm.
seemed like it was a concussion thing because it looked like a helmet to helmet thing initially. I'm like, all right, whatever, it's a concussion thing. Give him like a week off or two. But no, he tore his ACL and there's some meniscus damage and he's out for the season. This is a huge loss for the Jets. And me being a Jets fan, it's devastating because he was doing so well. We finally found a solid weapon, a diamond in the rough. This rebuild is going great now. We found a running back of the future, and then that's it. He's gone. It breaks my heart. And he was him and Sauce were like the two standout aspects of the team this season.
Mm-hmm.
And also Elijah Vera Tucker, who was also out for the season. But I think for the Brees Hall injury is way more severe. So it hurts. It hurts the fact that we lost him. And look, the Jets spent no time making moves right after the news about him came out. So they traded for James Robinson. They traded a conditional 6th round pick for the Jaguars that could become a 5th round pick. I think this frees up space for Travis Etienne, for the Jaguars, for him to operate, for him to thrive in. Jets get James Robinson. They also give Michael Carter some help. What do you make of this move for both teams? Clearly, it's a conditional pick. The Jets didn't have to give up a lot for him. For the Jaguars, I don't know. Like, what do you make of that pick, like that trade package for them? And obviously, it's going to be hard to replicate the success we had with Brees Hall, but I don't think James Robinson is nothing. Like I think this is a decent compensation, a decent consolation prize, if I may say so myself. But what do you make of this trade, Dirk?
I think you add a running back whose skill set can still mesh well with Michael Carter in the backfield. It was really weird for the Jags. Like they just stopped using Robinson like week by week, and it really became apparent like okay, they're going to trade him because they just stopped using him, and then they just started playing Travis Etienne more. And granted, like I get Doug Peterson wanting to use more young running backs, but at the end of the day, like Travis Etienne, like remember he missed all of last season, and he's been fine the last couple weeks, but it still hasn't been anything special. Like he fumbled against the Giants last in their last game, so I don't know. And it was a big Giants game, big Giants W for me and Chris, by the way.
That is
But
true.
like I get it. I don't like it. I feel it was that scumbag Trent Baalke. This is my personal conspiracy theory. That scumbag that's sadly a general manager, and Trent Baalke told Doug Peterson like, "Hey, don't stop playing James Robinson so we could trade him at least, so I don't have to pay him because we know Trent Baalke doesn't want to play players unless it's like bad contracts and make bad draft picks." So good luck with that, Jacksonville. In all seriousness, like Travis Etienne, getting him more playing time, see if he could be a premier running back for them for a couple of years before his body eventually breaks down and you don't pay him because people don't like running backs. The cycle continues on and on and on in Jacksonville. Once you eventually fire Trent Baalke, you'll have more faith in your team. For the Jets, like I said, Robinson can make some good plays. Like he's kind of been a bright spot, low-key, the last couple of years for the Jaguars. Now, I stress bright because it hasn't been that bright. There's been a lot of darkness, especially when that scumbag Urban Meyer was there. So Jacksonville's been run by scumbags for a while, Chris. I kind of feel bad for him, but it's it, he adds, but he can help the offense in terms of you're not going to get 100% of what Brees Hall was, of course, but you get a good percentage back. James Robinson is a more than adequate replacement for Brees Hall in terms of the rest of this season, and if you can, I think he might be a free agent after this year. So maybe like, and again, it's just a fifth or sixth round pick. So it's not the biggest loss in the world to trade him if you lose him in free agency after this season. If you could try to figure it out, maybe you could work like a way to get him more involved in the offense as well. In terms of like the receiving game, maybe Robinson can be like a very nice hybrid scat back. Like this is Mike LaFleur, who is the offensive coordinator for this team. Matt LaFleur's younger brother who comes from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. If they can find a way to maybe use Robinson to be more of a like receiving back, you can run with a 3-back system next year, man, and just give yourself that depth.
Oof.
Great move by the Jets. Great move.
Okay, your seal of approval makes me feel a little bit better with it.
The fact we could say a Jets move is definitively great, like
Well, the thing, like, I
a
have
trade. Let me
trust in,
trust a
yeah,
trade.
right. I have trust in Joe Douglas. Like, he has earned my trust. And I know Damien's had his like ups and downs with him, but I think he's been cautious. I think he's been, especially with like what we give up, in return for some of these players that when we make a trade. I think he's earned my trust. I do think their O line still needs a little bit of help. I think they've been in discussions with the Eagles, for one of their offensive linemen. I forgot who, but that's another thing that we might need to trade for because I mean, look, and time's running out. But I like the fact that we were aggressive like right away. We didn't waste any time with this. Like they got a big game against the Patriots too. You know, if the Jets want to be legit. This is a big game, and I think James Robinson definitely is going to help. I think he's going to play. I think so. All right, Jurg. Chiefs made a move. Now this move I think is low risk, high reward for them. They trade for Kadarius Toney. They traded a third and a sixth in the 2023 draft. And well, here's the thing: Kadarius Toney has not played this season, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, is he hurt? I think.
allegedly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, wink, wink. But look, the Chiefs are also on a bye week, so they'll have time. He hasn't had the best start to his career with the Giants. There's a lot of factors that play into that. But now you got a fresh start. You go into arguably the best team in the AFC, a Super Bowl contender, and you're playing with the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think Tony is someone who I think had a high ceiling, who still has a high ceiling. Now that you're kind of like resurrected and reborn in a way, and you're playing with Patrick Mahomes, that ceiling could be reached. And I think for the Chiefs, look, I still think they needed help because the end game for them is they need to beat the Bills, right? They need to beat the Bills. And I think this move, if it works out for them, if Kadarius Toney lives up to a modicum of his potential, Travis Kelce's there, Juju's there, MVS is there. He won't have a lot of pressure to make big time plays, but he could, I think, fill in the gap for what Sky Moore was supposed to, because I think Sky Moore is going to be a really good wide receiver, but he's going to take a little bit of time. I think Kadarius Toney is a little bit more polished than he is, and again, I think with Mahomes there, he's going to be comfortable really fast, and I think if Kadarius Toney ends up being how we think he could be, this is going to be a very good trade for them. I ask you, do you think they gave up a little too much, the third and sixth? Because for the Giants, I think any type of picks back for Kadarius Toney, who you weren't even playing, this is a W for them. For the Chiefs, they must see something in him that he could contribute right away, right, to make this trade. And now, I wonder, are the Chiefs done making moves? Because I do think they still need some help on the defensive end. I don't know what's going to happen with OBJ. I mean, do you even go for OBJ at this point? Now that you got Kadarius Toney,
I don't
but
think he's. I think I saw something that says he's not going to be available until December, probably. So that's another month away.
right. Yeah. I mean, what do you make of this trade for both teams? And also, what do you make of the trade compensation that the Giants got?
Chris, if there's one thing that the NHL has taught me that I could transfer to all sports is that being a former first round pick still matters,
Mm.
and you can be given a job more in a league, which you probably shouldn't. Erica Branson, you can be traded for randomly, where it absolutely makes no sense in the world, and you can apparently strong arm your way out of an organization, even though you don't deserve to, and talk crap about an organization, even though you did nothing for the organization. Zion, his family. So excuse me, the stuff got caught in my throat there, Chris. I
Yeah, I
apologize.
mean, it's fine. Just drink
Yeah,
some water. Are you?
yeah, I got you. But Kadarius Toney. Fun fact: his stats this season, Chris, because you mentioned it: 2 receptions, 0 yards.
How
Amazing.
does that work?
I don't know. rookie season, let's be real here. Rookie season, 39 receptions for 420 yards, nice, and 10.8 yards per catch. Long of 38, 21 first downs, I think he caught. I'm going to assume that's what FD means. On the stats. Look, Kadarius Toney, he's a 23-year-old former first-round pick that it just hasn't ended up well in New York. Now, it makes sense last season didn't end well because that idiot Joe Judge, but then you have this season, Brian Daboll. The fact he just couldn't click with Brian Daboll, to me, I don't like. Like, Brian Daboll just seems like a likable guy, like, and he's super into it and like is there for his team. So I don't like that. But I think again, old buddy got injured. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and the organization was like, you know what? Let's just trade him. Let's just cut our ties now. It's also again, it's a rookie contract. It's a first round pick. It's pretty easy to be able to get something back, and you got to give up something to get something. If the Chiefs believe he's something, a third and a six, not like that's not an overpayment. That's really not like worse players have been acquired for a third round pick. Like we talked about a guy who only has one sack this season who's traded for a fourth round pick. So this is the thing, like you said, if they believe that they could turn him into something, like there you go, and you take that chance. And the Chiefs have been known for taking a couple chances on receivers, maybe not so much when it comes to draft capital, but let's see. I think this could end up well for them. Again, he's got to actually start playing now. He's actually got to start caring. You have no excuses, Kadarius Toney. I've been difficult with him so far. I've been hard on him. You have the best quarterback in the league. You have one of the top 3-5 coaches in the league. If you don't play well, bro, that's on you. Like I don't know what else to tell you. This is on you to step up, kid. So we'll see what happens there. For the Giants, like you said, I'm not going to necessarily say like getting anything back for him would have been a W because again, this is a former first round receiver. Like the whole plan was for him to be something for your team. So it kind of sucks. I think Kenny Galladay is the more of the receiver where it's like if they even get a 7th round pick back for him, I think that would be a W. But still, it sucks. But with the way the Giants offense has still looked, granted, is it sustainable? We'll see. But the way it's looked, the way that they've been able to manage, just take out a guy that, let's be real here, just didn't want to be there anymore. And like you take that out of your locker room, I think that's just a good thing overall. I've always been one to believe the less problem children you have in a locker room, the better. Just an idea. And I don't necessarily want to say that he was that, but it's just like the vibe was not right. It was not immaculate vibes, as we would say, Chris.
Mhm.
It just didn't fit anymore. And sometimes you cut side. I gotta give the Giants credit here. Like they didn't waste any time. They're like, you know what? You're young. We wish it could work out. Let's get something back for you. Let's send you somewhere else. And bygones be bygones. I gotta give the Giants organization credit. Like they actually, to me, made a good football decision. The fact that the Jets and Giants are doing that this year, when we haven't been able to say that for like 4 or 5 years now, I'm impressed.
Yeah, and I think for Kadarius Toney, like you said, there's no excuses. I think why I think it could work and why I think it will work is that there's stability at the top, right? I think Mahomes is like the ultimate leader. Again, you have Andy Reid. There's no BS with the Chiefs, right? If you fail, it's kind of on you. Like the factors are all there for you to thrive, and especially in that offense. So yeah, no excuses. I think I'm gonna be curious to see how like he fits in right away. And I think there's gonna be some plays that they're gonna like focus on, specifically with him, just so you kind of get acclimated, quicker with the offense, and make him feel a little bit like more comfortable. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this works out for them. Curious to see and curious to see what other moves that the Chiefs need to make. I mean, I'm curious to see what other moves the Chiefs do make because there are some moves that they do need to make, to kind of close that gap between them and the Bills. But yeah, I think that's it for NFL trades. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about trades wise?
No, I mean we're only waiting at this point. I just think in terms of teams that need to make deals. I mean we've kind of mentioned a good amount of them, but just like a quick,
Packers.
yeah, the Packers need to make a trade for a wide receiver. They probably won't because that franchise just refuses to trade for anybody and anything. But I think if the Packers were to actually get up and actually make a trade, it's not going to be DJ Moore. I don't think they would give up the draft capital for that. But one guy I could actually see them maybe trading for would be Brendan Cooks out of the Houston Texans.
You think the Texans are going to give him up? I've seen that,
I
like
think
the
I think
trade.
like I understand the whole you got to give a young quarterback something. Look, let me as a great man once said. Well, he's not a great man technically, but as a Titan once said, reality is often disappointing.
He's a
They,
great man, bro. Come on.
yeah, I mean, Davis Mills is not the quarterback of the future, bro. Like, get it out your heads, Houston. You're gonna get your quarterback of the future eventually. It ain't Davis Mills. And as much as I like, it's a good idea in theory for the young quarterback to have weapons there. But when are they going to get their young quarterback? Like, how many more years is Houston going to build before they take their chance at their next quarterback? Like, you could go the Detroit method and just go with a stopgap and build the rest of the team around. And part of that means acquiring other receivers. And if you can get value out of Brandon Cooks, that's great, because what's better for you? Maybe get a second round pick back for Brandon Cooks and use that on a receiver for your future quarterback, or Brandon Cooks still be older, and by the time you might get your quarterback in 2 to 3 years, he's older. Like, it's a value game here, baby. We're playing that, and I think for Houston, and look, this is nothing against Brandon Cooks in terms of what he could provide for a team. Obviously, I'm saying the Packers should trade for him for a reason. He could take the top off of defense. He's been traded for like 50 times in his career, and he always seems to get 1,000 yards with a new team. He's got like 5 or 6 1,000 yard seasons in his career. This is a very underrated wide receiver here.
He is. He is.
So I just think cut your losses. Not cut your losses. I think that's saying it negatively. Like, just get value back for Brandon Cooks. Like, the value you could get from the picks you get from him, I think will mean a little bit more for your team. It just will. Like, you're building a young team. There's no reason for Brandon Cooks to be there. This is a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, for the love of everything. Has he been to 2 Super Bowls? I'm not sure. Like,
Not sure either.
because I forget if he was on the Patriots when they made it against the Eagles. Because I think he was on the was he on the Rams when they made it? I don't know. This is a guy who has playoff experience. Brendan
Yeah.
Cook. Brendan Cooks has been there, done that. He could help a team, and he could maybe help the Packers. If I have to give you one more team that I think should make a move that people are not talking about, it's actually the Cincinnati Bengals.
All right. Yes, there's some news coming out of the Bengals camp. Jamar
Yep.
Chase is out, right, for 4 to 6 weeks or something like that.
Yep, Jamar Chase is out for 4 to 6 weeks. It's funny enough, I actually wasn't even thinking receiver because they still have Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, but I think they need a defensive lineman. I think they need to add a little bit more to the pass rush. That, like, it was a slow start to the season. They've played better, but they're still not there. If they could find a way to add an extra pass rusher into this team, potentially, that would be great. But yeah, a wide receiver wouldn't be bad either. Potentially, there are teams. I mean, you could call up the Jets. They have 2 disgruntled wide receivers, apparently. Maybe it's that. I'm not going to say the Steelers because I don't think Chase Claypool. I don't think the Steelers would trade him in division. Then again, it's Chase Claypool. So, are you really losing something and giving them something? Maybe you're actually hurting the Bengals for all intents and purposes. But like, I'm sure there are a couple veteran wide receivers. Like, the Bengals will do their due diligence. I don't think they're going to make a big time trade. Necessarily in terms of like giving up significant capital, because I think they'll be able to survive Jamar Chase not being there, because again, it's Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. There's worse situations for a skill position out there, and maybe, who knows, maybe call up Dame's in Arizona. Maybe you could call up the Cardinals, AJ Green and Bengals reunion. Anybody? No? Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, like, it's just, I think the Bengals will do their due diligence. They're not going to make a blockbuster move at wide receiver. They're not going to do that. I don't think they will.
So, Brandon Cooks did make 2 Super Bowls back to back, actually, with the Patriots and the Rams. So he definitely has experience.
Thank you. I know even when I don't know. Look at that.
Yeah, there you go. Put that on a t-shirt. Yeah. I mean, look, the Texans also have the Browns pick, right? So I think they'll have plenty of opportunities to strike gold for a wide receiver in the draft if they do decide to move off Cooks.
They have the next 3 Browns picks. They can do whatever they want as they please right now.
Yeah, and you'll give CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, some help right away. So, yeah, I mean, it's very fun when there's a lot of sellers in sports. But yeah, I think that concludes our NFL talk. Jurg, you want to talk about some NBA?
Why not?
All right. Well, it's week and a half in, I believe. Season started. We made our standings predictions last week, and I think we're 4 or 5 games in at this point. And let me look at the records real quick. But off rip, there are some teams I do want to talk about. Bucks are 3-0, expected. Celtics are 3-1, expected start. Cavs 3-1, expected. Teams I want to talk about in the East. There's 3 in particular. Let's talk about your Miami Heat 2-4. Jurg, I am not impressed. For the first time, me being a Heat, not a fan, but I've always respected them. And at times I respected them more than you being the diehard fan, because I think I've given them a lot more, like, I guess, not appreciation, but like, I just believe in them. And I think that usually happens with people who aren't fans of teams. Like, when you're the more truer fan, your expectations go lower because you're more prone to heartbreak. So I think that's the case here. But they're 2-4. I don't know, man. What's going on, bro? What's going on? I think the lack of moves in the offseason is hurting them.
It's that in moments the offense or the defense like takes off. like here's the thing at the end of the day, and I think I gave my little note with it when it came to the Wizards, and we made it very clear early last season when it came to a certain Chicago team that was doing well early in the regular season. I don't care about the first 10, 15 games of the regular season. The year after we made it to the finals in the bubble, we started the COVID season like 18 and 15 or whatever, and that was an even shorter season, and we made the playoffs. I'm not worried. I think things will turn around. What like if I did have to label something, it's just there's a lot of inconsistency right now, and that honestly doesn't surprise me with the Miami Heat. I mean, you've kind of mentioned how I'm a little bit tougher on them. It, the Heat are a team with talent, but it is infuriating how they never want to be consistent.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler is never consistent with his aggression. Bam is never consistent with his aggression. Tyler Hero has actually arguably been the most consistent player, which is kind of weird to say.
But that's
But
good though, because he just got paid. So
yeah, 17.5 million. Well, I mean, he had to secure that bag for several reasons because there's two 18-year contracts he essentially signed with a IG model. So, uh, but Tyler Hero, 17.5 points per game. His defensive numbers have actually been good this season, weirdly enough. So more power to him. Max Strus has played phenomenal off the bench. Miami's about to produce back-to-back Sixth Man of the Year winners, but he's played well. Kyle Lowry is Kyle Lowry. Leave that what you will. And Caleb Martin's like this is just a team that like there's no consistency with its top two stars until Bam is more consistent for this team, and same with Jimmy in terms of their aggressiveness and taking over a game. Like they're a fine regular season team, but like there are just moments like last year, Chris. It's a perfect example. The last 3 years have been the perfect dichotomy of the Miami Heat
great
for the
word.
last couple of years. Thank you. The finals in 2020 in the bubble, in the most real and significant circumstances,
Of course.
they made it. 2021 murdered in the first round by the eventual champions, and 2022 Eastern Conference Finals. They were one shot away from making the NBA Finals, where we would have beaten the Golden State Warriors, obviously.
Mm.
But let me say that as a fan, I don't toot my team that much, so give me that at least. But it's been consistent, and honestly, I didn't bring this up last week, Chris, because I mean we were going long, but the Miami Heat have been an inconsistent team ever since LeBron left. So LeBron's final year in Miami was 2013 to 14. They made it and they lost to the Spurs. Let me read you a history. 2014-15 Miami Heat, 37 and 45, missed the playoffs. 15-16, 48 and 34, made the playoffs, lost in the second round to Toronto in 7. 16-17 Heat, that infamous Heat team that started 11 and 30, finished 30 and 11, and that got James Johnson and Dion Waiters paid. My PTSD is activated. 2017-18, they make the playoffs again, lose in the first round to the Sixers. 2018-19, the final season of Dwayne Wade, they miss the playoffs. 2019-20, make it to the finals. 2020 to 2021, lose in the first round, and then last season make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. By the way, they were 44 and 29 in the COVID season at the break. They were going to get 50 wins. So this is a team that fluctuates as a franchise, and it's part of the aggressiveness and inconsistency. And until I see more of that from the top two stars, like, look, I love Jimmy Butler, but like everyone talking about, oh, he's a Heat lifer and he deserves a championship. I agree, but God, bro, can you please just give me more consistency, please? Stop trusting your teammates to always be the aggressors. It's not going to happen. I would have thought he learned this considering Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins were his teammates at one point, but you need to take the ball into your own hands sometimes, and you need to take more control. And for the love of God, Bam Adebayo, I'm going to start calling him Idris Adebayo if he doesn't start playing more aggressive. You're not playing like Bam, you're playing like Idris. Play better, please.
All right. Well, I mean, look, I'm sure the Heat will turn it around. It's just the expectations for them are so high, especially from like my end, that it's so surprising when they like don't do well. But yeah, they'll turn around probably. Um, what do you want to talk about first? The Sixers or the Nets? Let's talk about the Nets first I think we can talk more about the Sixers. Jurg, I'm happy that the Nets are struggling, but they're 1-4. Did not expect 1-4. Again, I think the Heat, Nets, and Sixers, they're gonna turn it around for sure. It's just the depth, the bench, the defense. I thought their talent could supersede their shortcomings. Guess not. And Ben Simmons, I thought he was gonna look at least decent, but he's looked abysmal. You saw it in like the previous game. Again, it might have been against the Mavericks, where they're trying to feed him the ball a little bit more, get him involved in the offense, up his confidence a bit. Not working, brother. I don't know what the end game is for the Nets, but right now, usually like I'm scared of them. Right? I'm like, no matter how much they like lose, I'm like, if you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving as like a solid number two, they're always gonna be a threat. I don't know, man. It does not seem like that anymore. And I get it. There's no Joe Harris kind of been on and off. He's gonna come back full time eventually, and so will Seth Curry. And I think it's gonna help a lot because their bench depth is ass. But that doesn't help their center position. Doesn't help their defensive shortcomings. I mean, what do you make of this slow start? I mean, are you still in the camp that they're gonna turn it around, or do you think like these flaws are gonna affect them long term?
Eventually they'll turn around. Talent finds a way to even out, especially in
Right.
an 82 game regular season, especially with Kevin Durant averaging 33 and Kyrie averaging 29. Granted, not on the most efficient of shooting, only shooting like a little over 45% from the field, which in today's game is not the most efficient shooting, ladies and gentlemen. Before anyone tries to get at me, please update your basketball repertoire and resume. Um,
Jesus.
but yeah, like you mentioned, like just look at these games: 134 points to the Grizzlies, 110 to the Bucks, and that's honestly the Bucks like weren't going full throttle there, and 129 to the Dallas Mavericks, who I was told were only a one-man team. And the New Orleans Pelicans, 130 points. It's been rough. They've given up about 130 points already 3 times in this season. That is not good, to say the very least. I think we knew that the defense would struggle, but Ben Simmons was supposed to help like mitigate some of that. Dude, Ben Simmons, there's something up with him. Like I'm not gonna go in the whole mental health thing, but I just think there's a mental block on himself. I don't think he's ever going to be able to overcome it. I think he's too far gone on himself to really to like I don't know. This is a guy that has all the tools, all the talent, and it's been a story with him the last 3 years. And I'm not talking about the missing games portion. I'm talking about why are you not taking your game to the next level? And I just think Ben Simmons is a guy who's got the natural talent, and he's just letting it fall by the wayside. And it sucks to say, but that's what's happening. So they'll turn it around. But if you're talking about like right now their championship hopes, it's as low as it should be at this point because there's nothing in this team, like we've said it before. Championship teams don't let up like 130 points consistently. It's not been great. So
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping they fail. Personally, I don't care that this. I mean, this struggle's beautiful. This beginning start, but like, look, these are the games. Like,
here's the thing, Chris. It's better if they make the playoffs and then fail.
that is true. But I mean, it's struggling at the start of the season. Like these games dropping. These are the type of games that kind of like dictate playoff matchups. And are they a team that wants to go through the plane again? Because KD, Kyrie aren't going to play full 82 game season,
Right.
right? So like 1-4 isn't ideal for them.
Yeah.
They'll pick it up though, sadly. Sixers, Jurg. Joel Embiid is out tonight, by the way, against the Raptors. I
Oh,
smell an
what a
L.
shock. What a shock.
Yeah, I smell an L. There's this video I want to send you, and I should have sent it before this, but they zoomed in on Joel Embiid's reaction and body language after he passes the ball to Harden. Someone did like a montage for this season so far, and he just gives the ball to Harden, and you could just feel the tightness, like the anger, and Embiid just like walks away, like goes to the corner and just camps out for three. Bro, I did not expect an 0-3 start. They're 1-4 now. It's just this team is so lifeless, right? And it's just again, I said it before. It's hard for these other players to kind of get in a groove when Harden needs the rock, and now Embiid's camping out here, and he's not even dominating the post. I am not enthusiastic about the Sixers. Again, talent will supersede shortcomings eventually. But 1-4, losing to the Spurs, like who's purposely trying to tank.
Right.
You suck, bro. How do you lose that? What is happening? This is why, like, we have to do we have to do standings predictions. We just have to. It's part of like the regime here in somewhat sports land. But I hate predicting Sixers regular season success because it means nothing. Now you could get into the whole spiel of just like, then what's the point of anything, right? If you're just like, if the ends justify the means, you can't really enjoy the regular season. But it's just like it's the same case. Same thing always with the Sixers, bro. And I'm not gonna lie, now that Embiid's out, they still could win against the Raptors here. I don't think they will, but it's like, I mean, this slow start has me worried a bit. It has me worried. And it just the start that the Nets and the Sixers are having solidifies that the East is just a two-team race between the Bucks and the Celtics. There's a gap. It's similar to the AFC where it's the Bills and the Chiefs. East is the Bucks and the Celtics. Who else is challenging them? Now, if you ask me between the Nets and the Sixers, who I have more faith in, it's 100% the Nets, as much as it pains me to say that. And maybe the Heat as well. But I think the Heat just lacks star power in that regard. But, like, wow. I just... It's you just know you know it's Harden, it's Embiid. Look, I like Embiid, but it's Harden, it's Embiid, and it's Doc Rivers. What do you think is going to happen with this team, man?
I think Doc Rivers is going to get fired.
That too, but like you're stuck in mediocrity. For as good as they are, you're it's what's crazy? It's like there's the purgatory teams that we always stay away from.
Yeah.
Then there's the Sixers, who are like a slight tier above it. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
Because what's your ceiling? Second round max?
Yeah.
And again, I'm talking too ahead into the playoffs, but like I'm just so tired of talking about them.
Chris, we've been able to say this team is a second round at best team for 5 years, and we haven't been wrong yet. What about this team is going to make us change our mind? Look, and it's funny because after game one, everyone was like, "Yo, James Harden's back."
No, he's not.
Like this. This is why I don't pay attention to the start of the regular season. Again, talent will dictate this team does make a bit of a slight comeback, but they may not finish as high in the standings as we had originally thought.
Yep.
Just Doc Rivers is not the coach that can figure out how to get the pieces on this offense to be more cohesive. He's just not. And I mean, A, that's not shocking. But B, like that's what happens when you get two conflicting styles in Embiid and Harden. Like I know it looked good last season when it was the Minnesota Timberwolves pre Anthony Edwards All-Star and I guess pre Gobert technically, and the New York Knicks. It's not working like that this season. Because you can't face the worst teams in the league on a consistent basis. Granted, the Magic and Pistons are in your conference, but still. No, it's not going to work out. Like they'll get it together. Again, the talent is too great for them to fall out permanently, obviously, but this is not sustainable for playoff success. And
go ahead, say
do we really have to have the conversation of the idea of trading James Harden? Like,
no. I don't think you can trade him, and not because like they don't want to. It's because like who wants James Harden now?
Fair.
Look, Jurg, I think it's going to come to a point, and this is, down the line. They're going to have to trade Embiid. This is very above. Like I'm going too far right now, but I think that's the end game here.
I forget when I said this on the pod. I know I've said this.
What is it? What do I think? I'll confirm.
Doc Rivers, when he's fired, they're going to hire Mike D'Antoni. Like they're going to create because Daryl Morey's there, and it's not just the two of them. There's actually a couple of people in like the front office. Or like on even the operations side that are from Houston. I forget the exact position.
Yeah, it's Rockets East.
Yeah, it's Rockets East, and because that worked out so well with the actual Houston Rockets.
Well, they had a shot until CP3 got. But I get what you're saying.
And then they missed 27 straight threes, and then the next year they complained about referees and got rightfully smoked. Like
you're right.
The fact that you became for a brief period of time more dislikable than the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, just. Go away, Daryl Morey and James Harden, please. So, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to sound so low energy about it, but yeah, I'm just like this. You said it yourself, Chris. Like this team, like we give ourselves headaches trying to predict what they'll do, and then they do this.
They do what we expect them to do,
which is disappointing.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about them. It's just so frustrating. I don't hope that they pick it up because it's Philly, but. Who knows, man? I don't know. I'll send you the video, but the frustration of like Embiid, you could kind of tell, right? I think there's going to be like a rift, and I don't know if they're going to make a trade, and I don't know what trade they could realistically make that will move the needle for them to a point where I'm convinced because I don't see it happening. Where you're going to trade for Jay Crowder, like it's more toxicity in the locker room. That's something you don't need. But whatever. Let's move on over to the West. Everyone's favorite conference. There's some things to talk about here. Okay, Jurg, let's talk about the Lakers last because it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
How the fuck are the Jazz 4-1? No, you know what? I'm actually happy that they're 4-1. So Danny Ainge could eat my ass because he wanted a complete tank job, and Lauri Markkanen turned into like the greatest things in sliced bread. I'm happy. I thought it was gonna be Colin Sexton to be that guy, but it's Markkanen. they're 4-1. It's not going to be sustainable. They're probably going to have a fire sale with Jordan Clarkson and Mike Connolly and Rudy Gay eventually. But 4-1, like they're horrible tank job right now. I know Danny Ainge is fuming, but it's just like, what are you going to do? It's like these young players that are like so willing to compete.
Yeah.
Right? It's just it's fun to watch this because it's take this team out of the Victor sweepstakes as of right now, and it's like they could play. I could see this team playing spoiler for a lot of playoff, aspiring teams,
Right.
and that's cool to have. I mean, it sucks that it's Utah doing the dirty work, but it's wow, what a 180, and I'm not even gonna joke. Like I know they're Utah, and fuck that, but like it's probably fun to watch them.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like, I think Jazz fans will tell you it's probably fun to watch the Jazz.
That's why the thing with trades is that you need to get some players back to make it at least semi-palatable for the team.
Yeah, and not make tanking obvious.
Yeah, here's the thing. If I could just talk about it
Go ahead.
first, just so we can run through the West. The thing with the Jazz, and this is a very common thing when it comes to the NBA and the NHL. I know I mentioned hockey sometimes, like in moments, but the two leagues are comparable. There are 82 game regular seasons. The playoff formats are damn near similar. Like, give me a break, people. But here's the thing, and this is the thing that happens in hockey a lot. The young team that people have low expectations of will always play good at the start of the season, and then as the season grinds away, as the season winds down, everything will balance itself out, perfectly balanced as all things should be. The Jazz will eventually fall in the standings. I promise you, they will not be the third seed in like 3 weeks' time. Probably
They're
even
first right now, by the way.
Oh, tied for first, right.
Yeah,
But
yeah, right.
they show up third for me, so I promise you they will not be tied for first in a few. I mean, they might try to be tied for worst if Danny Ainge had anything to say, but they will not be tied for first in a few weeks' time. It's good. They're exciting. They're getting the hometown happy and go to games, which, I mean, it's Utah for the love of everything. What else is there for you to do? But at the end of the day, like, they're going to fall in the standings. Certain teams are going to rise. It's going to even out. Like you said, though, this is a team that's young. It's hungry. Jordan Clarkson is still playing good. Taylor Horton-Tucker is decent. Lauri Markkanen is the hockey fans. Please understand that this is a part joke. If you get mad, he's the NBA Finnish Flash, and that's amazing for me right now because I finally get to say that nickname for him because I've been waiting for him to break out for like 6 years so I could finally jokingly call him the Finnish Flash of the NBA. But he's performing well. Best Finnish basketball player of all time, clearly. But yeah, no, it's like good for Utah, but 2-3 weeks time, this ain't gonna be a story anymore. So,
yeah. Okay, let's talk about Wizards West. The Blazers started off 4-0. They lost to your Miami Heat 4-1.
Hell yeah.
Look, I wasn't. You know what's crazy? Like, obviously, I'm not a believer in them, right? It's the Blazers. We have them as the 10th seed. All three of us, actually. They'll start off hot. They started off hot. Good for them. You know what's crazy is that, like, I thought I'm actually a fan of the roster more than they were with CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
Because it's more spread out now, right? You have Lillard, so he'll do his thing. But, like, now I just think there's a little bit more depth, and, like, the offense can kind of spread around a little bit when Lillard isn't there. And now that Anthony Simons is, like, having a coming out party, even better for them. But Lillard's out with a calf strain, I believe. 1 to 2 weeks, he'll be reevaluated. And now it begins quicker, right? You delayed the process of just like kind of falling back. Now it's going to become quicker with now that Lillard's out. It was fun for a bit while it lasted, but it's a calf strain. You don't want to fuck with a calf strain because that's like close to your Achilles, and it's Damian Lillard. You don't want to screw that up. But yeah, I don't have much to say about the Blazers. I think other teams will pick it up and then they'll fall back now that Lillard's kind of, out for a bit. I think Simons is more than capable of like carrying the load there, but I just think talent-wise they're going to be superseded. Do you have anything to say about the Blazers, Jurg?
I already said I don't want to talk about this dang team anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
When they make the playoffs and if they somehow make it to the 7th or the 8th seed, call me when they get swept in the playoffs with Damian Lillard again, please.
Grizzlies 4-1 expected. Suns 3-1 expected. Pelicans 3-1. It's a good start for them. Zion and Ingram are out for a bit. I think Ingram has a concussion. Zion has a hip thing. Already we're starting with that shit, man.
What the hell is concussions in these sports now? Like, what?
I know, right? It just seems like the NFL. Like, I see it more often now. They're really taking it seriously, and props to them. They're really protecting the players. Nuggets 3-2. I think Michael Porter Jr. is already on some bullshit. I mean, he's out for a bit, but Murray, I think they had a bad loss to the Jazz. That was inexcusable. Murray, I think, is getting to the groove of things. I think again to start off, the Nuggets are going to be a little slow. I think it's going to take some time for them to kind of pick it up, and I think they will eventually. Wolves 3-2. That's kind of expected that they're flirting with the 500. Spurs 3-2. Awful tank start. Thunder are 2-3. That's better than we predicted as well. That won't last, of course.
Give it time.
Yeah, we'll give time. Mavericks 2-2. I mean, again, I don't have high hopes for the Mavericks, man, bro. Like every highlight of theirs is just Luca, and rightfully so. But it's just like it's so Luca centric, bro. And now that I think
MVP, baby.
the absence of Brunson is really gonna show. They need that secondary primary ball hand. That they need that secondary ball handler, man. It's they're gonna need to make a trade, but I don't know what assets they have to make a trade that could actually benefit them. It's gonna be weird with the Mavericks, but
I still don't think people we're going to see how Brunson's doing with the Knicks, and we're going to think that just translate. It's not.
no, but it's just he needs help from like a playmaking
I
standpoint.
understand, but Brunson's career high in assists was like 5 per game.
No, but
In
not
Dallas.
Brunson necessarily. I just think like he needs that guy. The Mavericks need that guy for when Luca goes out. They need someone to. And I get it's Christian Wood, but they're hoping it's Christian Wood, but I still need a consistent basis. Still need to wait and see if Christian Wood could be that guy. I mean, he still could be. I think the offensive potential is there, but I guess Dinwiddie, could kind of fill in that role, but I don't have trust in Spencer Dinwiddie that much. I don't know. I think they'll eventually make a trade because 2-2 isn't the best start, but it's not the worst start. I think if as the games progress and they're not where they want to be, they're gonna have discussions. I don't know who, but they're gonna scour the market. You know.
Their next two games are against the Thunder and the Magic. After those two, let's see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, sure, that is true. But again, Magics are winless, and they're probably gonna be hungry. But yeah, Warriors 3-2. No, they'll pick it up. Obviously, we don't have. I mean, they're quote unquote ninth right now. I mean, that's not gonna last. And there are, Jurg. I'm gonna go straight up with this. I'm not. I know I had them winning it. I'm kind of off the Clippers.
Ooh,
I know it's so early, and I'm jumping the gun right now, bro. But 2-3, you lost to the Thunder back to back. I got no Kawhi. But if this team is gonna do this Kawhi's on and off shit, how do you expect to gain any consistency, bro? Like it's the Clippers are so infuriating because they don't give a shit about the regular season. They're good enough to make it to the playoffs, but they wait for the playoffs. Like that's their end game, right? And it's just like, all right, Kawhi, Paul George, do your thing. But you haven't earned that reputation of just like when you get to the playoffs, they'll handle business because they won't. I get it. They made the Western Conference Finals that year. Then Kawhi got hurt, but that's still not enough to gain my trust that you're gonna make noise in the playoffs. They're deep this year specifically. I think they have the talent to do it, but right now, and I'm not saying off as in like they're not going to make it far. I have them winning the whole thing. I'm just off on talking about them because they're pissing me off. Because they always do this shit, man. Like this on and off of just like playing PG and playing Kawhi. It's so infuriating to me, bro. And like I can't have a good, prediction on how they're going to do in the regular season. Like it's so infuriating to talk about them because it's like they don't give a shit. You just dropped 2 to the Thunder, bro. I don't know. Like I'm Kawhi's my favorite player, so that's why like I have a personal investment in them. But like I'm off talking about them, bro. Like this shit is so absurd.
I feel so bad for you that a overrated and overrated leader of a player is your favorite player. I feel bad.
I mean, I knew Kawhi wasn't that guy in terms of like a leader. He was just always like my favorite player, like from a basketball standpoint. But like, it's just the lead guy refuses to play more than 60 games. It's just
Wow.
I don't know, and like a team that like has good stable, leadership with Jerry West and Ty Lue as your coach. Just like damn, bro, it's just you have to cater to Kawhi, and it's weird because like I know he's not as much of a piece of shit as Kyrie is, for example, but like there's so much baggage with him, and PG I can't trust him enough to kind of lead the helm. I don't know, man. Do you have anything to say about the Clippers before?
SGA just keeps taking W's against the Clippers, which I'm more than glad to see.
That is true.
And yeah, no, it's like you said. Like I think of all the teams that I've tried to say talent will sort itself out. Well, the talent's gonna miss 20 plus games. I don't know how much it's gonna sort out, dude. Like these guys need Kawhi in the lineup to have order there. And Paul George can only do so much by himself. It's already been proven he cannot be the number one on a championship team. Come on now. So we wait and see. We wait and see, to say the least. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they'll pick it up. Obviously, I think so. But all right, let's talk about it. The Kings are 0-4. Man, I actually had decent expectations for them,
We
but
both
they
did.
just proved me because I thought, all right, this is a play-in team. I think they have the roster for a play-in team contention. But like always, the Kings disappoint me. I try to be
I
an
mean,
enthusiast.
if you look at the start of the regular season, it's the Blazers, Clippers, Warriors, and Grizzlies. That's 4 playoff teams.
Oh, that all right. Well,
And then the 5th game is against the Heat. So
that might be an 0-5 start. It's
yeah.
still a jerk, but like, I don't know. It's just
I mean, on the bright side, they're not going to be the only California team that starts 0-5.
well, it's a great segue, by the way, to the Lakers 0-4. Jurg, I don't know what to say about the Lakers because I cannot believe a team with LeBron is arguably what. I mean, they're not. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA. I don't know how to fix this team because there's a part of me that understands you want to capitalize on LeBron's time there, so you have to make a trade for, I guess, the Buddy Hield and the Miles Turner, portion of it. But I do not blame them for being. I don't blame them for being hesitant to trading those 2 picks because I don't know. They suck, bro, and like they're gonna suck for a bit. There's not a quick fix to this team. I don't know how they're gonna get better. I really don't. I mean, I think they'll obviously. I think they'll surpass the Rockets and the Kings. I mean, I think so, right? I'll say this, Jurg. I think there's only one solution, and it's a big one. It's a nuclear option.
I think we're thinking the same thing.
You can't trade LeBron because he has a no trade clause on 3. Well, 1, 2, 3.
Blow
Trade
it up.
AD. Oh,
Blow. Yeah.
well, I mean, I guess that's part of blowing it up because like, what tradable aspects do they have besides AD?
Well, I mean, you said one of them, but yeah, here's the thing: a no trade clause doesn't mean he can't be traded. It just means that he has control, and it's LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm LeBron, I mean, it's so weird. LeBron being traded, I mean, that's a first in our lives, right? I mean,
it'd be awesome. I mean, Wayne Gretzky got traded, so come on now, LeBron can get traded.
it's just I wonder what his perspective is in all this. Lakers, I would blow it up at this point. I'd be like, look, LeBron. I mean, again, he does have control at the end, but it's just like, bro, let's talk about this. Like, what are we gonna do, right? And it's a bad look for his legacy if they're 0-4 right now. Their schedule's not getting any easier. I mean, they play the Wolves next, so I mean, maybe it's winnable. But no, wait, Davis is out, and I think Russ is coming off the bench. I just don't know. I cannot see the future of the Lakers, but as of right now, 0-4, it just looks so bad.
The decision to trade Russ, and I'm not talking about Russ's play this season specifically, but the decision to trade all those pieces they had for Russ just handicapped this team so much for the last 2 years.
I didn't think they thought that. I don't think they think that they thought that. Whatever. I didn't think they'd be this bad.
But here's the thing: like, my only thing, I didn't like the deal. I only said one good thing about the Russ trade: that on nights where LeBron and/or AD could sit, Russ can take over that game. And he hasn't done that. He had plenty of opportunity last year. AD missed goddamn half the season.
And he's about to miss another half the season.
Essentially. Like, the problem is, and I don't understand why the Lakers have had the biggest issue with this, the way to have a LeBron and AD team is the 2 of them and shooters. And have shooters. Let me say this one more time. Shooters. And in the time I've said that, their 3-point field goal percentage has probably gone down even more. This team cannot shoot for the life of them. I think if me, Chris, and Dame went out there with LeBron and AD, I think we would connect on more threes.
I think so.
It's bad. And I know I've kind of made a couple jokes on this pod. That's the one I'm the most serious about. This team cannot shoot. This team cannot shoot. It's bad. And the way you build a LeBron and AD winning team is to have shooters around them. And like Lonnie Walker is fine, but he was never a pure catch and shoot player, and he's had to try to become that and learn that on the fly. I think same with Damon Jones. There's no real natural shooting on this team. Like, they're younger than they were last year, which is a positive. I think it's hard because I actually genuinely think there are aspects of this team that are better than last year's team. But the biggest one that is worse is the 3-point shooting. And in today's game,
it's the biggest part.
Yeah, and it's not just being worse from last year. It's literally being arguably the worst 3-point shooting team we've ever seen, especially in the modern era. Like, this is bad. like, I don't know.
This is bad.
I when the first 10-year LeBron Cavaliers kind of got roster construction a little better than you did, we have a problem.
Yeah.
And that first 10-year LeBron Cavs team had Amari Stoudemire and Chris Bosh tell them both, I'm not playing in Cleveland, and denied LeBron a chance at getting a number 2. But at least they had shooters. And they had Zydrunas Ilgauskas, because clearly that was the key for LeBron. But the fact that they don't understand how to build it, like, Rob Pelinka needs to be fired.
You guys just got an extension.
Guys can get extended and they can get fired, ladies and gentlemen. Trust and believe that. But they need to fire him, and they need to get a GM, and they need to blow it up. And I think that's the only way this team could go. I'm not going to get into the whole how does this affect LeBron's legacy, because that I'm sick with that joke and that meme. And to be honest, if you let this affect 20 years before this, okay, again, that's a you thing.
No, but I don't think necessarily affect his legacy, but it's a bad taste towards the end of his career. Like, I don't want to see LeBron. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan, but I don't like him. I don't like seeing him go out like this. And I'm not saying he's going to go out like this, because there's still more to his story, because he's still going to play with his son. But it's just like, like them kind of wasting his like last few years. Yeah. It sucks to see.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm just saying, like, for fans and for people, like, if you're not going to bring up Jordan on the Wizards, please don't bring this up. Like, if you're not going to be even about it, then I don't want to hear from you. Like, that's just my point with it. But yeah, this franchise, they just don't know how to build around him, which is pretty wild. Like, this has been the franchise that is known throughout its history for building around superstars and winning championships. And man, that bubble championship looks even more important than it ever did before. Because this does not look great right now. So I don't know, man. It's I mean, but then again, that just goes to show that the skills of the father do not translate to the son nor the daughter, because the son was terrible and the daughter ain't that much better running this team. So there it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna be. It makes for fun storylines, because like the trade market's gonna be crazy for the trade deadline. But
if we even get the slightest bit of whispers that LeBron or AD can actually be traded, I mean, yes, please, for the content. That would be absolutely outstanding. That would be wild. Because I mean,
that's league shifting.
Yeah,
movement.
Literally, because those are two guys that you send them somewhere. It's going to, with AD, it'll become a solidified playoff team, and with LeBron, it's going to become a conference finals favorite at minimum. And I'm just saying, Cleveland, this is for you.
Oh man. Oof.
What if this was the master plan to bring a second championship to Cleveland and just wait for them to get his new D Wade in Donovan Mitchell? I'm just saying. I'm BSing at this point. I don't know. I don't know who's going to trade for him. I don't think Cleveland can trade for him.
Well, I can't think of a better way to wrap up things than a LeBron trade discussion. Jurg, it's been a pleasure, my man. Very fun episode. We talked about a lot.
What's the tech issues?
Yeah, that is true. You guys won't know of. We're gonna do crowns and clowns next week. We want to have a full lineup for that. I think we're 2 behind it right now, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So we'll have 3 crowns and clowns next week. So we're gonna make time for that segment. We know the fans love it, so we're gonna give you guys what you want. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials?
Guys, you already know. You can follow us at somewhat.sports on Instagram to get updates, to see our weekly NFL predictions, to get some betting predictions here and there. You're going to get a lot of content on the Somewhat Sports page. We just reached 100 followers. Thank you so much for getting us there. And now let's take it to the next level, guys. We're at 100. Let's get to 110. Let's get to 150. Let's get to 200. Let's go to infinity and beyond there. And part of the way that you can do that, following us there, is you got to listen to the show. You got to listen to the pod. You got to listen to our beautiful voices. Not see our, 2 out of 3 of us have beautiful faces. I'll give you a hint on who doesn't on this show. But for the show itself, Somewhat Spaced in Sports on Spotify and YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe to YouTube. Like, share, give us 5 stars on Spotify. Any comment you guys make, we'll give it attention. You want us to talk about a sport more? Of course, we got you. When the World Cup comes around, we're going to have some soccer conversations. You want us to respect baseball more? We got you. When it comes to the NBA and the NFL, you guys already know it's here. When it comes to the NHL, I do the best, because that's all I can give you. We give you our best every single week, ladies and gentlemen, because we do this for you, for the people. The podcast for the people. Another week down. We come back next week. Beautifully put, as always, Jurg. Appreciate you. I appreciate this conversation we had about sports. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, we appreciate you as well. And until next time,
Peace.